time to round up another big headline from the week. The Texas Supreme Court has upheld the Austin divorce of a same-sex couple. The court ruled the state lacks standing to intervene in the divorce of Angelique Taylor and Sabrina Daly, who were married in Massachusetts in 2004. The decision has no impact on Texas's gay marriage ban. Governor Gregg Abbott had challenged the divorce while he was still Attorney General. The Texas Supreme Court's decision is our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on Facebook and on Twitter, so make sure you tell us your opinion. Joining us live now in the newsroom is Fox 26 senior legal analyst Chris Tritico, Fox 26 news analyst Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right, what are your thoughts on this one?
Good morning. I got no feed, so I have no idea what your question was. I'm just going to jump right in. How about that?
Just do it.
The Texas Supreme Court said to Governor Abbott, why don't you butt out? But really what they were saying was, you waited too long in this case to get involved. And so when Governor Abbott, at the time Attorney General Abbott, intervened, he missed the deadline. He missed the filing deadline for him to intervene in that case. And what the Texas Supreme Court said was, you don't have the jurisdiction to be here, therefore we're going to let this same-sex divorce stand. Now, at the same time that this case was pending, another gay couple attempted to get divorced. Governor Abbott did intervene timely in that case. It was pending before the Texas Supreme Court when one of the parties passed away. Thank you. Passed away, and therefore the Texas Supreme Court lost jurisdiction. The issue in Texas is not settled. There's no doubt in my mind that if the Texas Supreme Court had an opportunity to answer the question here, they would say our Constitution prohibits a same-sex divorce just like it does a same-sex marriage. All of that, of course, will be dealt with in the next week when the United States Supreme Court rules on the same-sex marriage case.
And a lot of these cases that have kind of come to the top for various reasons are going to be settled by the Supreme Court, hopefully probably by next week. But look, I think Governor Abbott wanted to intercede on this. He knew he had passed the deadline. It's very hard for me to think that he's a smart guy, he's a good lawyer. Right. He knows the deadline.
I mean, it was like a year late.
It was, yeah, it's almost 2 years after the fact he applied for this. And he did it for political reasons. He was running for governor. He wanted to make sure that he comes out strong on a conservative issue. I don't blame him for doing that. But the reality is that the country has moved on. And whether it's the Texas Supreme Court or its political elected officials, I think they have to go move with the public opinion.
What about that? What about his coming in over a year late on this to say, wait a minute, you can't give them a divorce, even though they'd been divorced for well over a year?
Well, because you live in Texas, we live in Texas, and in Texas, a marriage is defined by our Constitution between a man and a woman. And Governor Abbott has stated that one of the reasons why they intervened is because of that definition. They felt that how can they recognize a divorce by a same-sex couple if they don't recognize a marriage by a same-sex couple. And of course, with the judgment that just came out, the final opinion did state, look, we didn't even look at we didn't even look at the definition of marriage. That's being taken up by the United States Supreme Court. But the general sentiment, a majority of Texans, regardless of your party, believe what the Constitution says, that a marriage should be defined between a man and a woman. When it was taken to the polls last time, it was 76%. That's a very large number.
I don't think the Texas Supreme Court was saying we're going to defer to the U.S. Supreme Court. I think what they were saying was...
that's not what I'm saying.
All right.
What the Texas Supreme Court was saying was that we're not going to even discuss
today
the definition, in this case, the definition of same-sex marriage.
Don't you think that don't you think that the Texas Supreme Court, given the opportunity, would in fact say you can't have a same-sex divorce in Texas?
Look, I don't know, but right now what they've done is they let the lower court decision stand, which allows for that divorce. So on all practical purposes, that same-sex couple is getting a divorce in Texas because that's what the lower court had acknowledged.
But I do think that. I think that if that opportunity, they would have said this is not legal because of the Constitution.
Now, let's just jump forward to next week when the Supreme Court issues its opinion in the same-sex marriage case, assuming, just for our discussion, that they say same-sex marriage is lawful in the United States. Texas is then going to have to recognize these divorces and these marriages despite the laws they just passed.
Well, the governor and the attorney general have both said that they plan to fight this. They feel it's a states' rights issue. They feel that the Constitution in Texas dictates what the definition of a marriage is. So I don't think it's going to be a final decision next week, regardless of what the decision comes
The
out.
only way to fight it at that point would be a constitutional amendment to the United States Constitution. That could take years. In that period of time, that the years that the states vote on whether or not to do this, Texas is going to have to recognize this.
Well, Texas has. I mean, we're part of the union. Either we can secede and start our own country, or we can be part of the union and follow the guidelines of the Supreme Court, because that's what we all have agreed to as a nation. But I think it'd be interesting to see if the United States Congress, which is Republican controlled, right, takes on that issue and tries to put a constitutional amendment to do that. Because in essence, that's what the base voters are going to demand.
But you have to have 2/3 in the Senate. You never get that through the Senate.
I think you've seen for a long time that whether it's the pro-life movement that's challenged the Supreme Court decision on this stuff, or the gay rights movement that the right continues to argue. And so these culture of war are not over for the Republican extreme, and they will continue.
Well, while the Republicans, we got to go, but while the Republicans are going to continue arguing about this, they'll never get a constitutional amendment passed in the Senate with the makeup the way it is. You have to have 2/3.
Yeah, the Senate, based on the makeup it is right now, it's not going to work.
Right.
But it's not, again, the Texas voters who believe in the definition of a marriage between a man and woman, regardless of being a Democrat or Republican. It's 76% of the voters.